Steve Hardison's coaching office in Mesa, Arizona, in the US, is a sacred space. When I interviewed over 100 clients, I heard some describe it as feeling like being at Mecca or inside the Vatican. And there were some that were even more bombastic descriptions there. Welcome to Steve's office. Steve has never allowed anyone to bring recording equipment in there. The first time I stepped into the office in 2013, I took my shoes off and I was told to leave my mobile phone, my cell phone, outside the door. We're going to jump in today with some recording equipment in there, a microphone in there, some cameras in there. This is a once-off, it's never happening again. I want to acknowledge the author of The Book of Being, The Ultimate Coach. It's Amy B. Hardison, and she spent thousands of hours committed to this project. Welcome to the magic and the miracle that is Steve and his coaching office. Come on in.
Hi, my name's Steve Hardison, and I'm very excited today. Today's my wife's birthday, so I've been married with her or to her for 44 years, and what a special treat that is. It's also a special day because I'm doing something that has never happened in my office before, and that is recording me, taping me. In fact, recording or taping me is kind of a seldom ever happens, but I'm grateful that I can do it today because it's a summation of my entire life, what I'm going to share. Ever since I was a young boy, I've been fascinated with how people believe and what they think and what causes people to behave. And I've studied and I've learned, but mostly the experiences I've had have been from humanity. When I went to college, I really didn't care much about what I learned in the courses. I was so interested in what I learned from the teachers and who they were being. I had conversations with them and the other students. I was fascinated with why people acted like they did, and I loved it. I wanted to learn everything I could about them and myself. So the state of being and the nature of humanity is my passion. It's what I love. So I've been doing what someone's called, or some people would call coaching, since really 1982, without a title or without being paid for doing it. And now what I do for a living is, my kids joke all the time. They say, "Dad, you just get paid to be you." Because I do. What I do is I be with people and I love people and I work with people so they can see that state of being is everything. I have a thought. It's not the truth. It's a possibility. That thoughts are things, and things create being, and being is everything. And who we're being generates what we do. So I'm a simple person that thinks if you want to adjust the world, just adjust the being. Adjust your own being. Not everyone else is, just your own. So I've done what I do. We'll call it coaching. It makes it easy. For 35 years. And back in 2013, I had a gentleman that came from Australia to visit with me. I was doing the equivalent of what's called a Be With session. His name's D Thompson. I think he was about 26 years old at the time. And most of this that I know comes from him sharing with me, because there's so many people I see. Sometimes people have to tell me the story of us, and I don't know. But this is my part of the story. I remember him being here, and I asked him a few questions about what he does, and he told me. And he was really, really brilliant, very bright. And what he told me he did just blew me away. But what blew me away more than that is after he told me what he did, he said to me that I've been with a lot of people, but I haven't experienced anyone quite like you. And he said something like, "We should write about you, or people should know what you do." And I said to D Thompson that day, "I will never write a book. This is my book. And the people I work with are chapters in the book. I have no interest in writing a book." We had a great conversation. He goes back to Australia, and he sends me a copy of something he wrote and said, "Is it okay if I put this in a book?" And I said, "Sure, you can write what you want, but I won't be writing a book." And that was in 2013. The next time I saw D Thompson was Thanksgiving Day, 2021. But between 2013 and 2021, a lot of miracles have happened, and mostly generated by D Thompson. On occasion, he would communicate with me from Australia, different methods, and we'd touch base, and he would every once in a while joke about doing a book or whatever, and I would say, I'm not doing a book. That's not my world. I've had other people who said that. I said, you won't get a book out of me. You won't get a tape series out of me. You'll get who I'm being. And I don't know the number of times, but I would say it was significant where we had that kind of conversation. I just said, I'll pass. Until on April 19th, 2020, I woke up to an email that said, Steve, last night God nudged me and told me that I should write a biography on your life. Well, that was an interesting thing. I think I turned around to Amy and said, we should talk to this guy and talk him off the ledge, because that's craziness. Well, we spoke with him. We had quite a long conversation. And first of all, I acknowledged him that he would, persistence in his dedication of who he is as a human being, and that he'd have that much interest in anybody, let alone it be me. And I remember saying to him, I don't need a biographer. I don't need someone to write about me. I don't need anyone to know that I exist except my God, my wife, and the person sitting across from me. That's all that's important to me. Who am I being at that time in that place? And he shared some things with me that impacted me greatly. Who he was being moved me to listen to him in a place I'd never listened before. Because he basically said, I believe there's a way we can do what you're wanting to do. And I said, I don't believe you can write about being and have it be being, because the minute you write about it, it's not it. And if I were to write a book, the only book I'd ever write would be on being. And I don't think that's possible. Well, he helped me see that might be. And he then made a promise to me that was extraordinary, because I know what he's done in his world. And if you don't know, go over to Alan D Thompson, take a look at the things he does. It's the miraculous. And I said to him, I don't need this. And he said, let me promise you this. I work with peak performance with people all the time. I will give you the best peak performance of what I do. I just need to get your okay that I do this. And Alan, I don't need this. I don't want to pay you to do this. You're not going to pay me, Steve. This is a gift. I'm giving this to you. I'll put it together and you can have it. If you want to publish it, you can do it. You want somebody to edit it, you can do that. Your wife, she writes, she edits. If you want, she could be involved in the book. And I said, Alan, that will not be happening. My wife is currently working on a book called Lost in Translation about Christ. She likes me, but she doesn't like me that much. Now, I told him Amy and I would need a little bit of time to talk, but it moved me quite a bit to see that this would be possible. In my remembrance of it, the next day I go over to my computer, and he has designed a book cover with a title and about 180 pages of a book already done. He had been doing work for this for some time. We got on the phone. I was so moved by it, I said, let's go. Do it. Now, what he did for the next 90 days, 120 days, thousands of hours, is interviewed clients of mine, friends of mine, neighbors of mine, places where I bought cars, just different things, put together all this research, did a 622-page bound book and sent it to us as a gift. Amy, who was writing her book on Christ, read through the book and said, there's some pieces in here that need to be in that I can do. So she was just going to kind of polish it up a little bit. Well, she got involved in it. And who she was being is, I'm going to make sure people really quite understand who this guy is that I live with. So for the next 18 months, she spent the first year, 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, writing a narrative of the story of all the research that Alan Thompson had done. She finished about 3 weeks ago. It ended up being 18 months. And in that process, the editor would say things to me like, would you like to sell 1 million books? What would you like to do? And I'd say, listen, I'm not interested in selling a book. I'm interested in altering that people can see who they're being, and that altering their being changes the world. And my commitment is to alter the way the world is by people understanding their being, one person at a time. So His name is Chris Nelson. He's done a great job, and my wife's loved working with him. I said, Chris, if you could sell 2 million books and 10,000 people could alter their state of being by learning about themselves and really discovering who they are, or you could sell 11,000 books and we had 10,001 people discover, I'd want to sell 11,000 books. I don't want books out there that are sitting on someone's shelf. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in things like this that have happened since then. That book has been published. It's out in the marketplace, and I've got experiences like this. I get a phone call from England, and the lady wants to know if I'm Steve Hardison. I say, yes, I am. And she said, I want to know if you could tell me who gave me that book on the bus. And I said, which book are you talking about? What bus? Where are you at? It's a lady in London. She tells me she's in London. She tells me her name. And then she tells me the experience of someone giving this book. I call it the Book of Being. Some other people call it the Bible of Being. That's a little far stretch. I call it the Book of Being. And she said a person gave me this book. I read the back cover. I read the front 2 pages of it. And I read it about myself. And then she starts explaining to me very emotionally what happened to her. And she said, would you please give me the name of the lady on the bus? I want to talk to her. And I said, I really don't know the lady. I said, this is happening all over the world. People are reading this book about themselves, and they're having unbelievable experiences. And I said, have you had that kind of experience? The one you've told me, is that down in your soul? And she said, yes. And I want to thank this woman. I said, if you've had that kind of experience, I don't know who she is, but what I ask you to be is I ask you to be the lady on the bus. I ask you to think of 10 or 15 people in your world that you could be the lady on the bus to. Now, the experiences I've had worldwide are like that, but they're numerous. And people have gone out and bought 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 books. And then have asked somebody to read it about who they're being and have results and experiences like that. And there are so many different miracles that are going on that are just blowing my mind. I've been informed by D Thompson, who has been instrumental in a lot of the growth of what's going on around the world, that this book is in all 7 continents. And he made it possible in Antarctica in a relationship he has. And the gentleman down there has the book and has access to people seeing what's on the book, being able to read the book. And then there are people that are taking this from a different point of view. They're looking at it. In addition to those people that I've acknowledged, I want to acknowledge Iyanla Vanzant, who wrote the foreword to the book and is in the book in many places, and has got a copy of the book with handwritten notes wherever she's in it about my experience. So she's got this copy that really says the background of what that's like for me. She's made a huge impact in my life, and what I love about her is she's dedicated her life for the advancement of African American women and what she can do. And I've watched her and she's inspired me. And what I know she's going to do with this book is read it about who she's being and be able to do the same thing that the lady on the bus did in England, the same thing that Clayton Mask is doing with his company, the same thing that this Gabby Peru is going to be doing in Peru. And she will be challenging people to read the book about themselves, and there will be extraordinary experiences. There's another gentleman that I spoke to today on the phone I've never spoken with before. His name is Steve Bacon, and he's going to do the equivalent of what Iyanla's doing, except for African American men. And I'm so moved by who he's being, that he's read the book about himself and can see the power that he has. My intention is to see that all humanity understands that world peace will only be gotten when we are being peaceful. And the only way we're ever going to be peaceful is to see where we're not. We're going to have to look at what is our state of being. Will we see it out in the world? So I'm grateful for all these people. I'm grateful that this book is on 7 continents. And I hope any person that reads it has this type of experience I'm expressing. And if they don't, I apologize. I say reread it Stop reading it and being critical about anything in it. Stop worrying about it. Reread it and say, what do I learn about who I'm being? My promise is that you cannot get through that book without having an altered state of being. Thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who's helped. Thank you to the people I haven't mentioned, and there are thousands. Thank you to Linda Kwan, who helped Alan Thompson at a different time. And there's hundreds of people like this. Thank you all. Please know that I'm saying your names, even though I don't have all the names to say. And thank you for your early adopters that got the book and moved to action. And I don't even know you. And you've made impact in your communities, in places. Oh, Devin Bandison, thank you for what you've done at Montverde with the athletes down there and the support or their staff and the parents. Thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for who you're being. You are a model of this. I have not had a client yet that hasn't been willing to reread this book about who they're being, that hasn't had some extraordinary experience. And I invite each of you, the ones I'm talking about, to share that with people in your world and let them have that experience. Remember, this is not a how-to book. This is not a coach book. This does not tell you how to do something book. One gentleman who read this, I don't know, you may want to go look at some of these people's Amazon reviews, which I have not requested any, but go look at, one gentleman said, this book was amazing because it didn't tell me what to do, but it gave me access to who I could be. And that's the intention of it. And that's the intention of this, whatever this thing's called I'm doing right now, is to have people be able to see that the ultimate coach is a book of being. Who am I going to be when I wake up in the morning? Who am I going to be when I greet someone? Who am I going to be when there's a challenge? Who am I being in my world? What is my beingness? And how do I alter it? I mentioned speaking with Steve Bacon this morning. I've never met him. I've never seen him. I got an email that he sent to one of my clients, and my client sent it to me, which started this ball rolling, and then Steve spoke to me on the phone. Steve is an African-American man who's committed for the beingness of the African-American community, especially African-American men. And as I was talking to him, I told him, I said, I see things before they happen. And I said, I see this as complete. I see you as actually being able to do this. And then I used an example for him because his impact, he wants to impact all African-American men. And I told him, you have the capability to do that right now. And I promised him, as you continue to read The Ultimate Coach, the Book of Being, read it about you and this desire you have for African-American men. And you'll see what will happen. You'll see it come to fruition through these stories about this dude called me. And then I said, let me give you an example. I was in Santa Monica, and I was meeting with 6 people that I hadn't met them. And one gal named Julia, and when Julia watches this, she'll remember the experience. I'm sitting, I bought them yogurts or gelatos or whatever it was, and they're just telling me a little bit about themselves. And Julia's now talking, and she tells me, and I'm telling this story to Steve Bacon. Julia says, I want to share something with you. And she talks about relatives that she lost in the Holocaust because of Hitler and how that's impacted her. And she said, I really wish that someone would have stood up to Hitler at the time. And she says, I think we're in a place like that now where someone needs to stand up, much like what Steve's saying for his African-American community. And I said, okay, so that's great. And you got these 4 witnesses here hearing you talk about that. And she says, yeah, but I think it's something you should do, Steve. And I said, and this is somebody I just met. It's like, I said, and then she asked me, she says, what do you think about what I just said? Now, I'm sharing all this with Steve Bacon so he can hear it. And I tell him, I'm sharing this story for you, Steve. I want you to see what happened to Julia because this will happen to you. Julia says, what do you think about what I just said, Steve? And I said, let me tell you a little story, Julia. So I'm sitting with these people, and I'm going to tell Julia the story about what's happening in the spot. So I say, Julia, one time I was in Santa Monica, and I was at this little gelato shop. And I'm talking to 6 people that I don't know, and a gal named Julia started telling me about what happened with the Holocaust and her relatives and how they were exterminated and that somebody should have stood up to Hitler and her whole background of it. And I said, and I said there were 4 or 5 other people listening to her tell me, and then Julia's over there looking at me like, is the guy crazy? I'm the Julia he's talking to. And I say, yeah. So then what she said to me is she told me, man, if we had someone like that that could make decisions and stand up now, it would change the world. We blew it at the time of Hitler. We don't need to do that now. And she kind of said, and I think that's going to be you. And I say, you know what, Julia, I'm saying this to Julia. I say, Julia, this Julia, she asked me what I thought about it. And Julia, do you know what I answered? Now I'm going to finally answer her question. She had to go through this whole story with me. I said, it's you! It's not me, it's you! And it was Steve Bacon. I said, Steve, you're it! You're the one! Take it! Shift your being and take it! What I know is there is greatness, magnificent in every human being. No matter what the current situation is. You want to alter reality? Notice who you're being. If I were to take an hour to tell you what Julia has done since that conversation, you would think I'm making it up. And I'm going to predict ahead of time what Steve Bacon does. He'll do the equivalent of what she's done, except in his community. This is not something for special people. Anyone that has consciousness, that has a state of being, can work with that state of being. Anyone. It's not limited to race, creed, religion, money. It's limited only to your willingness to expand your state of being. That is all it's limited to. And I'm grateful for the people who have been being extraordinary in this process. Some of them I've mentioned. Many I can't even remember. There are so many. Thank you for listening. You are it. It isn't someone else. You be the lady on the bus. You be the gal going to Peru. You be Steve Bacon. You be Iyanla Van Zandt. Now check that out. There's a woman that's humble. She rereads the book, not about me, not about her, not about the stories of her in it, but about who she can be. And she will elevate her state of being. That is possible for everyone. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Be blessed. Be you. You know, there's been a lot of really, really miraculous things that have come out of this. One of them is this Alan D Thompson that I met in 2013. And we spent hundreds of hours together. He probably knows me better than any other person, including my wife. He's the only person I've ever authorized to video me, record me, or do anything with it. And at the end of this video recording, I withdraw that from even him. So that isn't even, that's the grandfather clause of that ends at the end of this video, except by some agreement. So in doing that, you know, he's interviewed me, he's done this, he's read the book, he's read the manuscript, And he said, I would like to be a client. So I said, great. If you're going to be a client with me, what you're going to need to do is take that book that he'd been reading and read it. I said, you need to read it over. You need to start over. You don't read it about you being the guy who researched it. You don't need to be, I know Steve Hardison. You need to be at Alan D. Thompson, seeing who Alan D. Thompson can be. And I promised him, and you will see this, that what will become of him reading that book out of who he's being, it will be life-altering for the planet in what he does with artificial intelligence, what he does with the nonprofits and the charitable things he's doing, including with one of his clients named Marika. Things will be lit up. And there is nothing in that book that lit him up. He lit him up. There are some things in the book that would have him has the freedom to see he could do that. So even Alan D. Thompson reread the book. We have our first coaching session tomorrow, and he knows you need to have that book read from who you're being. I can't think of anyone who has read it that I didn't say, reread it. And this is why. I say to my clients, if I am the same man at the end of this 2 hours as I am at the beginning of this, I wasn't present with you. Because being, when you're present, will grow. So people have read the book. I've had a person read it and say, I read that 4 days ago. And I've said this to that person. When you began that book, you were X. You were being X, some state of being. You've just told me you had this enormous experience on the backside of that book. Now you're at X plus something. Now that X plus something has a different set of eyes than X had at the beginning. Take X plus something and reread the book. And I promise you'll find something there. That is state of being. Someone could take the book of being, entitled The Ultimate Coach, and read it every quarter and see stuff and think somebody stuck something back in there and nobody did. You saw stuff that's in you. It's just a mirror to reflect it. So keep your eye out for Alan D. Thompson, from what he's done, and do that with people all the way down to 12-year-olds who are reading the book and will reread the book. One last little thing, I think, but who knows for sure. I was invited to go to a Eagles football party at Chris Doris's house. I'm expecting to go over to a football game and enjoy that. Chris is one of the clients, a former client, that read the book about himself. Unbeknownst to me, while we're having this big ruckus party, he quiets everything down and he begins talking about a book that he read that altered his life. Then, almost like on cue, these two small young men bring out a book and hand it to everybody that's watching this football game. I'm talking about people drinking and partying and having fun. It goes quiet, and Chris gives them a book and promises them that if they'll read this book from who they're being, and then he makes huge promises because he knows that he's experienced himself. It was another time. He said, "Steve, do you want to say anything?" And I said, "Yes, there's something I'd like to say. First of all, thank you, Chris, for doing what you did. It would be so easy for you to think, hey, I got my place all together. I don't need that. I've worked with you." And other people thinking, I don't need to look. Why would I read a book about my being of anything? And you did that. And then you gave those books to these people and committed them to do this. Here's what I'd like to say to your friends. Here's what I'd like to say. If you read this book as Chris outlined, what you will find is your state of being will be altered in such a degree that when you do it, you will know there's a new you there. And then guess who should sign your book? And some people said, you, meaning of themselves. I would sign my book. Say, yes, I want anyone who reads the Book of Being, The Ultimate Coach, to actually read it so powerfully, you do not need someone's autograph other than your own, and you sign it. You're the one who found yourself. You're the one who gets credit. Now, I happened to have Alan Thompson at that little football gathering with me, and that poor man from down under looked at that group of people and thought, these are crazy Americans. Look at them go. Those guys are just throwing this little thing around. These guys are going nuts. I said, if you want that book signed, I'll tell you who to get to sign it. Go right over there, that man that dedicated his life to that, get his signature. That will mean something. And then put that with your signature. So if some of you out there get this book and you do something big with it, make sure that the people know that the most important signature they could have in that book is their own after they experience it. I hope I'm a person that writes a book who signed the fewest books ever in life. The book's about you. Who are you being? When you discover who you're being, you're the rock star. You're the hero because you can now really perform. Sign your own effing book. So I had a great experience. One of my clients that I've worked with for 12 years comes into this office where we're sitting. And again, this is a unique experience, having a lot of stuff stuck around in this space, sacred place of mine, like a camera tripod and He comes in and he lets me know what his experience has been like having read this book about him. Now, he's a client. I said, don't read this book about me. Don't read this book about the stories in here. Read the book about who you're being. Read what's on the front cover and the back cover and read it. He had such an amazing experience that what he said to me, he says, I'm going to get a copy for every one of my employees. And they don't have to read it, but how they get it is they'll have to come into my office and commit to me that they'll read it about them. And he said, Steve, I'm not going to run this through the company. I am going to pay for this out of my own pocket, because I know that if I can get everybody in my company on the same sheet of music, that on who they can be, that miracles will occur. I could go on for literally 2 hours of things like this that have happened. One gal I've never met, but I will meet her. She and her husband would come so I could meet him on the 9th of December. She sent me an audio talking about her experience. And then she told me that she had purchased 30 books and done the same thing with it. And she wanted to know if she could get my autograph. And so I sent her a book that was like a raw book. It wasn't one of the final published ones. And I called her up and I said, I'll send you this book and I'll sign it so you can have it. But so you can just have that. When really what I was wanting to do, because it was in the infancy stages, I don't want to be the guy signing all these books. So she communicated with me, and I would share this with her and with other people. And I've done it multiple times since then. I've done it with groups. There were 200 people are there, 50 people at a party. And I say, if you've read this book and you read it, if you read what's on the back cover to instruct you how to read it, and you go through it and find your own state of being, if you do that, you will not need me to sign the book. You are the one who needs to sign the book. You're the one who needs to sign the book. So I don't need people to come get my signature. Everything that's happened here has been amazing. Miracle after miracle. All I'm inviting you to do is to bring an open mind to a book that's not about coaching. It's not about doing. It's about being. And I invite you to get a copy of that book and read it in that way so that you will be able to see. And I know whoever's listening to this right now, you're magnificent to begin with. But being is like a mountain without a top. The expansion of being is what will alter everything in the world. You want to change anything you look at outside, alter the state of being. If we have enough people that do that, we'll just have a different world. And that's really my passion. My passion is to see how many people I can love, learn from, and serve in a lifetime, and how much I can alter the planet singularly, not single-handedly, but out of who I'm being, and invite other people to do the same thing. There was one woman who read the book. Then she called me up and she said, would you mind if I did a book launching? I said, no, you can do whatever you want. She said, can I have the newspaper come and interview? I said, no, I won't be doing that. I'm not wanting to sell a book. If you can do whatever you want, but I won't be doing that. So she put this program together, and it's in January, and they've got it, as far as I know, as sold out as you can get sold out. And the commitment she's had everybody make is that you need to read this book about you before you come. And that is so moving to me. It is so moving to me. I was telling you earlier about the gal who had bought 30 books and done the equivalent of that. And when I'm on the phone with her, I can see she has a very heavy Spanish accent. So I ask her where she's from. She says, I'm from Peru. And I said, I'm guessing that you can write and speak Spanish. She said, yes, on both. And I said, you've been so impacted on this, I want to challenge you to do something. I said, my wife and I will be going to Machu Picchu in Peru in October of next year. I challenge you from that experience that you have, that it wells up inside of you, and that what you do is you get this translated in Spanish. And that when my wife and I go to Peru, not for me, but for all the Peruvians, that I could walk in someplace and be on a computer and order it, and it shows up in Spanish. And she has said, I'll do that. I've had 20 or 30, 40 of those experiences, just like that. One of the great ones I had last night. So see who she's being. You can see who that woman's being. I have a gentleman who returned my call. His name's Eric Lofholm. And we had a conversation. I told him a little bit about, I'm not wanting to sell a book. I'm wanting to alter the world through states of being. And I'm telling him about it, and he's read the book, and he's had that experience, and he said to me, Steve, let me help you. Let me put a Facebook page on for the Ultimate Coach. Let me manage it all. That was yesterday. It was not even 12 hours ago. He's done all that, and people are on that. It's emotionally humbling for me to see all that happening. So, to the best of my ability, I am stating to you that my interest about this book of being entitled The Ultimate Coach is that anyone of any walk of life in any country that wants to see the power of their being expanded, get a copy of this book, read it about you, and I invite you all to become the bus lady or the lady that's going to go to Peru and be responsible to have it translated in Spanish. I've never met her, or most of the people that are posting on my Facebook page, my own Facebook page, or on this page that Eric Lofholm has done. So I just want to thank D Thompson for being the genesis of this book. I want to thank my wife. And I want to thank all the people who participated to make this possible. And I promise you this. If you are interested in improving anything in your world that's outside of you, the only way out is in. Go in and see who you need to be. And I promise you, if you do that, your world will never look the same again. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time. Have a wonderful day. And since we're close to Christmas, have a Merry Christmas. And if this gets out somewhere in the future, have a happy Halloween or wherever the timing is. Just have a great day. Remember, thoughts are things. Thoughts create being. And being is everything. Every doing that you do is driven by who you're being. Have a great life. Be blessed. Be you. You want to rock and roll? Well, that's what you'd get out of it. That's the real me, that feeling.